demeaning comments about other people.
Remember, we have a nationwide audience. Whatever you say, we broadcast everywhere.
It can be possibly used in a court.
Hey man, how you doing?
5:30. It's still on. You ready? Good evening and welcome to the Bay St. Louis Planning and Zoning meeting of September 26, 2023. Can everyone please silence all cell phones and electronics at this time? And just a reminder real quick, even for the commissioners, just make sure when you're speaking into the mic to speak slowly and clearly and as close to the mic as possible, because there are many people at home that are trying to listen in and they're having a difficult time hearing. So we're going to begin with a short prayer and the Pledge of Allegiance. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Father in heaven, we invite you to preside over this meeting. Give us unity of spirit even when our opinions differ. Help us to listen politely to other points of view and to remember that we are all a part of the same community. Direct our thoughts, words, decisions, and actions toward the right path in the best interest of our city. We ask this in your name. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Okay, we're going to do some housekeeping announcements, but another quick announcement before we begin about the two applications that have been withdrawn. The first one that was withdrawn is Schneider at 347 St. George Street concerning the fence, and also SWK, the subdivision between 3rd Street and South Beach Boulevard has also been withdrawn.
All right, and then, guys, thanks everybody for being here. Thanks for the commissioners. I guess this is housekeeping, just our mic system that we improved several months ago. It picks up everything, but you have to be talking into it. So commissioners, whenever y'all make a motion, especially, or talk into it, make sure you speak in there. With that being said, this mic here at the front, anybody who wishes to speak, the applicants, we need y'all to come up to the podium to speak. If you signed up out there, make sure you come up to the podium. We're not gonna, it won't pick up if people ask questions from the crowd, so don't do that. So some of y'all are new, most of y'all have been here before. Applicant comes up. If you wish to speak for or against or anyway, you go up to the podium. Last several meetings that we've had a lot of people at, there's been a lot of background noise just because speaking among yourself. So we're going to, if we can, we're going to shut this door. So if you have to have a conversation or speak, don't even go to the lobby if y'all step outside, just because it's hard to keep record for the minutes or rewatch it just because of all the background noise. But I guess as Ms. Dozier said, we had two applications that withdrew today, and then also commissioners, y'all all have the plats, and I know some of y'all have the big ones. Also, during the sketch plat time and everything else, I have 2 by 3 copies over here, so if y'all need it, I can get y'all an extra copy of the big plats if it's easier for y'all to see.
Okay. First application tonight is Meseke, application for variance to the zoning ordinance submitted by Philip Meseke and Candace Gunning. The applicants are wanting to construct a new residence on the property. They are requesting a variance of 17 foot 4 inches, resulting in a 7 foot 8 inch setback to the front yard, and a variance of 6 foot 1 inches, resulting in a 13 foot 11 inch setback to the rear yard. The property is located at 401 South Necase Avenue, parcel 149M-1-29-050. .000-260A, Second Ward, Bay St. Louis. The property is zoned R1 Single Family District. Yes, go ahead. Can you state your name and address for us and tell us a little bit more about why you're asking for the variance?
Yeah, my name's Philip Meseke. I live on 515 3rd Street in the apartments over there on Chateau St. Louis. Purchased the property. We want to rebuild the house on the same footprint that the house is there. The house has been there since, I think, 1905. We've been through the Historical Commission to get permission to build a new house there. We just want to build a new house where the old house was in the likeness of the old house.
And Commissioner, he said he got permission to build a house. They also got from Historical, they actually got approval to demo the house.
there any comments or questions from the commissioners? I don't have anybody. All right. We're gonna get we forgot to get the sheet out. But let me, let Mr. Rabelais come up and talk while we're waiting. Oh, okay. That works.
Cliff Rabelais, I'm here tonight as the chairman of the Historical Preservation Commission. Yes, these people came in front of his HPC. I actually thought this had come to the P&Z already, but it didn't. We grilled them pretty hard about why they want to tear the house down. They came to HPC with all the required documentation. We actually did go and look at the house. The house, yes, anything can be rebuilt, but this is one of those ones that it's not, truly is not feasible, because of the foundation. What they presented to us was a modern day replica, same architectural style, materials of like kind on the existing footprint. That house, when it was built, I don't know what the setback requirements, if they had setbacks, but it is what you refer to as a pre-existing non-conforming. They're building a very similar, nearly identical house on the same footprint, which, from the historic standpoint, that's what needs to happen. So, I did tell Mr. Anderson, John Anderson, who is the architect of record on this one, that I would come to this meeting specifically to say that we supported them rebuilding the house in kind, and we do request that P&Z allow these variances because it is pre-existing. Any questions, gentlemen, ladies?
I do have a question.
Yes.
When new construction is happening, the code enforcement goes out to approve electric and plumbing.
Yes.
Will you be visiting this house as it's being constructed to be sure that it conforms with what you think it's gonna happen?
I go by there on a regular basis, Harold, but I will stop and look at it, and I'll actually ask Mr. Anderson to let me know when would be a good times, and from the HPC standpoint, we will go and do that.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. Thank you, gentlemen, ladies.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions from the commissioners? No one else in the audience that would like to speak for or against? If there's nothing else, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move it.
Motion by Mr. Agee, second by Mr. Romano. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye, motion passes. Please be present at the next city council meeting Tuesday, October 3rd at 5:30 p.m.
Thank you.
Can I wait till the end of the meeting to do the motion? Okay. Next application is Mcleod. Application for variance to the zoning ordinance submitted by Willie Mcleod. The applicant is wanting to construct a residence on the property. The applicant is requesting a variance of 3 feet, resulting in a 5-foot setback to the side yard. The property is located at 225 Karen Lane, parcel 149N-0-30-132.000, 4th Ward, 73B, Bay St. Louis, N through 3 through 4, the property zone R2 two-family district. Yes, sir. Can you state your name and address and a little bit more about why you're asking for the variance?
My name is Willie Mcleod. My current address is 15279 Dobson Road in D'Iberville. Currently, that piece of land is 44 feet wide. Existingly, it was 88 feet wide, and someone let them divide it, leaving a very small piece of land. All setbacks are going to remain the same except the one to the south, which I'm asking for 3 feet. Instead of the 8-foot side variance, it would be a 5. The north side will remain the 8 feet, allowing for any equipment or any kind of device to get back there and do whatever needs to be done.
Any comments or questions from the commissioners? Miss Anita Warner signed up to speak.
Anita Warner, 417 3rd Street. This is across from my garage. This is a very narrow street. It actually was an alley. It's only 11 feet wide. He is wanting to put a house that is 30 by 70 on a piece of property that is actually 43 feet and 8 inches. He needs to make the house smaller to fit the lot. It's too big a house for a very small lot on a very narrow street. I'm opposed.
Thank you. I did speak to the neighbors directly to the right, and they didn't have any opposition to it. They will be building soon. Anybody else in the audience for or against this application? Any other comments or questions from the commissioners? I'll entertain a motion.
I'll recommend approval.
Can we make the motion with, about the side yard, Harold?
Yep. With the understanding that the 3-foot variance will only apply to one side of the house.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Mr. Weber, second by Mr. Romano. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Please be present for the next city council meeting Tuesday, October 3rd at 5:30 p.m. Schneider has been withdrawn. Next applicant is Stieffel. Application for sketch plat approval and variance to the zoning ordinance submitted by Matt Stieffel and Louis Loikes. The applicants are wanting to subdivide the lot into 5 lots. The following variances are being requested. Parcel A and B is 60 feet, resulting in 40 foot to the lot width. Parcel C and D is 50 feet, resulting in 50 feet to the lot width. And parcel E is 21.4 feet, resulting in 78.6 feet to the lot width. The property is located between St. Francis Street, Labatt Street, and Sycamore Street, parcel 149M-1-30-094.000, 95B and 94B, 3rd Ward, Bay St. Louis, parcel 137J-0-44-053.000, lot 100C, 108, 109B, 110, 111, 3rd Ward, Bay St. Louis, parcel 137J-0-44-057.000, 100D, 3rd Ward, Bay St. Louis, parcel 149M-1-30-126.001, 186 and East, 18.6 of 187 3rd Ward, Bay St. Louis. The property zone R1, single family district. Let's go.
My name is Matt Stieffel. I live at 507 Citizen Street in Bay St. Louis. A lot of numbers, a lot of parcels, a lot of moving parts on this one. It's been over a period of few years. I've been dealing with different sellers and buyers on this property. I live right nearby. I own two pieces of the land, one on Labatt Street and one on Sycamore. And the objective of this subdivision or re-subdivision is to reallocate land more evenly throughout a very large vacant piece of land that's just sitting there unused. I have seen what not to do when a developer tried to cram 8 houses in there about 6 months ago, and it was very much contested. I have met and talked to neighbors who are my neighbors and shown them what I'm thinking and see what's palatable for the number of houses or buildable lots that can go there. Please note that I don't own all the land. I just own 2, but I am working with another builder who owns the bigger portion and the small parcel on St. Francis. So there's already pre-existing non-conforming road frontage and lot sizes. And the objective here is to try to fit 5 buildable parcels and then make sure that we are meeting the minimum square footage requirement, 2 of which are at 16,000 square feet versus the 12,000. And then the objective is to make it less dense, more green, and to utilize the land that I feel is a great place to build. Like I said, it's in my neighborhood. It's high elevation, no flood zone, and it'd be a great place to put 5 more homes not crammed on top of each other in Bay St. Louis. So. And I realize, before y'all start, I realize I'm missing some components here. So I am looking today for more of a conceptual approval of the way the land is allocated. And then I will go to the additional expense and come back to you with the additional layers of topography, live oak trees, which are not being harmed in this re-subdivision, drainage, placement of the houses, et cetera.
Are there any comments or questions from the commissioners? I'd already told Mr. Stieffel this, but it was just my preference, because the word I keep using is wonky in this subdivision, to leave the two existing even though the two existing lots are non-conforming. Well, one might be conforming, facing Sycamore Street and Labatt Street, and find a better way to subdivide coming off St. Francis. My personal opinion. I do have Miss Anita Warner signed up to speak.
In case anybody wants to look, it's a very strange piece of property. And Matt's he's trying to do the right thing. My problem is he didn't put any trees on this, and there are two significant oak trees. There's one on St. Francis Street, which is between 8 and 9 feet. I couldn't really measure it because of all the vines on it. That tree is probably about 80 to 90 years old. There is a huge oak tree on Labatt Street. It is 13.3, which puts it at about 140 years old. Now, both of these trees are almost at the street. So what Matt has said he's going to do is use limestone driveways, not build anything there. But there are also some trees in the center. I did not go into the center of the property. And according to your new subdivision regulations, section 301.3, you're supposed to, in this sketch plat, put not only the lot sizes, desired improvements, location of existing proposed utilities, protected trees with drip lines, which is very important. I told Matt, if you're going to do this, you need to fence off these trees during construction so that we don't destroy them. Access roads, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Wetlands, adjoining landowners, which you have to list, easements and rights of way. So I think as presented conceptually, it's an interesting idea, but it doesn't meet your subdivision regulation requirement as set out in your subdivision regulations.
Yeah. Thank you. And that may even be the reason we were talking about for the jogs and, some of these jogs in here on the property lines, trying to not let the property lines run through some of those oak trees.
Also, I may not have illustrated this initially, but the road frontage is really just access, and the houses would be situated further back where the property widens. So where those large oak trees are that she's referring to there's going to be a gravel driveway that's not even near the base of that tree. And it really is just going to be access to the main house property. So every tree and every line that we draw is going to be, when we get down to that specific level of detail, is going to be worked around. Keep in mind, some of these, the bigger oak trees along the edge are, older. Obviously, she explained how big they are and how long they've been there. The ones that were not cut down initially, so the previous 2 owners ago cleared the property. And she did not cut any of the live oaks or the big sycamore trees. They're all still there. And, the live oaks, the ones that grew in a wooded area, are very tall and skinny, but they're there and they're staying. So that's the intention, is to leave the trees that are there as they are and to work around them with the property boundaries.
If there's no one else in the audience that would like to speak, any more questions or comments from the commissioners?
Yes, I'm looking at St. Francis Street, and the width of the 2 lots that's on the street is 40 feet. And that should be 1 lot, not 2 lots.
It's pre-existing that way. And the smaller square is actually used to be a house there, 516 St. Francis. And the much bigger square in the middle is undeveloped land, has never been built on. So the theory here is to yes, you've got the small road frontage, but that's just gonna be a driveway. It goes to a much deeper lot and wider lot at the back.
So you don't show a measurement, you show the 40 feet on the street and the 80 feet in the rear for one, but in the middle, I don't know what that measurement is, maybe 60 feet?
It looks to be 60.
Where the house would be located?
Yeah, I'm 40, probably close to 60, yes. But it's very deep, so the house doesn't necessarily have to go side to side. It could go more narrow and deep.
And I think that's one of the things that makes me uncomfortable too, is that the siding of the house. And I would really like to see, you know, at least the general location of those oak trees too in the middle. But if there's no other comments or questions, I'll entertain a motion.
I make a motion to deny the applicant.
Motion to deny by Mr. Osborne. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Weber. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Nay.
Aye.
Motion passes 6-1. So the application is denied, but please be present at the next city council meeting Tuesday, October 3rd at 5:30 p.m.
Can y'all give me is there anything that I can do on this besides get the additional is it because of the land layout and the?
For me personally, it's because it's the land layout. Like, I'd rather see those existing lots, even if you add land to the rear of them and make them larger. Like, I think coming off of Sycamore and Labatt is great. Those are two great lots.
Yeah. Okay.
This is my opinion, but I would like to see the location of the oak trees too, just so I'm sure other people are, it's a requirement now, so. And I believe the siding of the houses is also a requirement now too.
That would be.
So if you could do a general, layout of that too.
Schematic of where they're gonna be?
Yeah,
Okay.
because then we'll have this, can hopefully avoid these situations where someone in the past subdivided a lot to 40 feet, and then they're coming back and asking for, a side yard variance.
Okay.
Because we don't know who the owners are gonna be.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Next application is a site plan review, a public hearing for major site plan review for an office building. The property in question is located at 887 Washington Street, parcel 137G-0-25-043.000, Part Tract A, Division J, Benigno, established section 25-8S-14W, 8 through 14, and a portion of parcel 137G-0-25-047.000. Part J, Bouquet claims section 25-8-14. The property is zoned C3 Highway Commercial District.
My name's Ray Wesson. I live at 618 North Central Avenue in Waveland. I'm here for a site plan review. I was here about a year ago, and I got permission to build an office building on the property. I since that time acquired some adjacent property and shifted a little bit to the east. So on the eastern end of on Washington Street, on the parcel, I'm proposing a 72 by 72 office building, pretty simple office building to house a nonprofit in town.
I was saying then all building, my zoning, fire looked at it, it was fine. Public Works looked at it. For those who know the property, which I don't think you've seen on his property, there's a main drain back there, but there also is an easement filed at the court. The start of their parking lot, I think the closest part of that is even 10 feet out of the easement, and it gets further along. So drainage-wise, we will be fine there. It's not building on top of that drainage ditch, so stormwater should not be a problem because they've stayed, even if the easement is on their property, they are well away from that, their parking lot, because that was one of the biggest concerns, make sure we could service it.
I reviewed it. I didn't have any questions. Are there any questions or comments from the commissioners?
Nope.
If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I'd like to ask a question.
Oh, yeah, go ahead. Oh, sorry, I thought that was for Valentine.
Is the future development, Mr. Wesson, on the 90 side or on the side away from 90?
I don't follow you.
On your drawing, you have a future development. Is 90 here or is 90 back here?
Washington, and then this is drink water here.
Okay, very good.
Miss Lisa Terry, if you want to come up and speak.
I'm Lisa Fox Terry. I live at 866 Washington, so my property abuts this property in the back by the drainage ditch. There is a 35-foot wooded lot between us on the front end of the property toward Washington Street. I'm kind of representing the neighbors that are in the 860, 870 range of the Washington Street there. There is a drainage ditch, as Jeremy said, that runs parallel to Washington Street behind my house and will run behind this property. There's also a drainage ditch down on the other end that runs perpendicular and under Washington Street, and those two converge back. There's a little bridge there. They converge back about a block from my property. In 2020 and 2021, we had some flooding, about 18 inches in my backyard when those two ditches filled up. And that, I have pictures if anybody wants to see them in video. That water floods from, let me get my directions straight here, southeast to northwest, which is going to bring it into the back corner of this building. Our concern is that while this property has been cleared for not flooding, we're concerned that it's going to act as a dam, especially since they've moved it over to the east. Before it was sitting kind of in the middle of that lot, and we felt like it had room to flow behind it as it's going to the northwest if it gets up that high. But with it sitting back against that wooded lot, we're afraid it's going to act as a dam because it comes about halfway back in that lot and push that water back into our end of the neighborhood if both of those ditches fill up with water. So I think we all knew there was going to be development. I think we're all glad there's going to be some development on there and it won't be kind of a blight anymore. But we're mainly concerned about the flooding issue, and that everybody realizes the way the water flows when it floods. It seems counterintuitive it would flow that way, but where those two ditches meet up, it forces it out along that little bridge and then back toward my house to the northeast. And so it's going to cut right into the back corner of that property if it gets up high again.
Yes, ma'am. And I mean, they'll have to go through all the drainage requirements, and this will
Right.
be reviewed by the city engineer.
Right. Well, I think
well.
our concern was that
It's very
I'm
valid,
up on piers,
Mhm.
but everybody, a lot of other people in there are
on
not.
grade. Yeah.
And so, I think our concern was that, if the building was elevated any at all with fill or anything like that under it, you know, then, and it brings it up above our properties anyway, and then if the water comes in, that all's just gonna act like a dam to dam that up for about the 70 feet or whatever, till it can get back to that ditch and start going again. So, that's just, an issue that we wanna make sure is addressed.
Yes, understandable.
Mr. We do part of this, and it's not necessarily zoning or even city council. What part of the building plans that they submit, and actually we have them, it's the pre and post construction calculations.
Mhm.
So the scenario you said, if your house floods, it won't because of this project. And we're going to make sure that the runoff pre and post is not what it is. And that's the other reason we made sure we had actually even extra room from the easement to make sure that main drain, which basically does a good job maintaining, but we can continue maintaining that main drain. That's, I guess, on the back side of this building.
Right.
But
But-
no, we have drainage calculations from their engineer that's being
Right.
looked
We
at by
just
our
want to make
engineer.
sure that other drainage passage is, you know, looked at, where it dead ends into that one, because we, you know, like I say, I've only been there since 2019, but all the neighbors recanted to me that they had had no flooding there since Katrina until that summer. And so, part of that was blamed on some building that was around there and non-maintenance of the drainage ditches. But, then the next summer we had the same scenario again. So we just want to make sure that I see them out there maintaining that ditch behind my house all the time. and also the other ditch, but it's harder to get to, and you can't really do as much maintenance on it with the brush hog and that sort of thing as the one behind us and behind this property. So we just wanted to make sure that everybody was aware that that does back up in there. It just kind of becomes a soup bowl. It all floods toward the ditch behind that property, but it also comes in from that perpendicular drain across Washington, a block down from where, or about 2 blocks down from where this property will be. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jim and Tammy Sanders, 108 Citizen. Okay. If there's no other comments or questions, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to accept the application.
Motion by Mr. LeBlanc. Is there a second?
Support.
Second by Mr. Ag. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion passes. Please be present at the next city council meeting, Tuesday, October 3rd at 5:30 PM. Okay. Next application is Bay Waveland Properties LLC. Application for sketch plat approval submitted by Bay Waveland Properties LLC. The applicant is requesting a sketch plat approval to subdivide a lot into 7 conforming lots that will meet lot size requirements. The property is located on the corner of Central Avenue and Ballantyne Street. Parcel 149N-0-30-090.000 1 through 11, Mrs. John Fayard subdivision. The property is zoned R2 two-family district. Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
Hi, Allison Anderson, Unabridged Architecture, 443 Main Street, Bay St. Louis. We were here in July. We heard lots of comments from the community and from the commission, and we listened to the recommendations of the commission, and we are returning with a project that is now fully compliant with all of the zoning requirements. We're not asking for any variances. We are developing lots that are 100% conforming with the R2 zoning, and we're asking for you to please recommend approval to the city council.
Just had one question. I feel much better looking at the 75-foot lots. It was just on that easement, because we discussed the property that's behind it, that they may not know what they want to do with it. But my concern is the easement. Which property does it belong to?
It will be its own property. It will belong to the property behind it. We don't have any commitment from the owner about what they are going to decide to do about the back lot, if anything. I think that's a little ways in the future.
I think the issue there would be that we need a variance for the lot behind it then for a 15-foot road frontage, because it's landlocked otherwise, correct?
It's just a maintenance easement.
So where
not
will
a
that,
driveway,
the
it's
lot
just a
behind it be fronting? It won't have road frontage?
Not at this point.
You see what I'm saying?
So if you have that piece of property, this is one of the concerns that there is. You have the piece of property 75 foot. It appears from the sketch plat that on Ballantyne, everything is, 5 lots have 75 foot. But that 15 foot, the way it reads now, there's no variance. That appears that would be a lot in itself that we didn't get a variance application for. But what Ms. Dosher's saying is if it belongs to one of those lots and it's access to the back lot, it's not denoted. Like it says a maintenance easement. And I guess that was one of the questions of who owns it? If it's the lot behind it, I think it probably should be denoted the lot on but if it, as it somewhat appears, it's just a 15-foot lot by, 160.
It's not a buildable lot. It's an easement.
But it's not, but it's not, it doesn't belong to 5 or 6.
Right.
So it's a lot. You're correct. It's not a buildable lot, but it's.
Right.
But which parcel does it belong to?
Yeah, I guess traditionally whenever planning and zoning, I guess we see if there's a lot that's behind, I don't know, Carroll Avenue, Demotlison has a lot of 3 lots. And many times if you go look at somebody's.
St. John, yeah.
If you go look at somebody's parcel, there's a perpetual easement on one of those streets most of the time, giving access to the back from probably 100 years ago. It just doesn't denote it on there. Exactly, it just says maintenance easement. I think that was the question that I guess the city has.
Well, at the moment, none of these lots are for sale.
Yeah, it's all one owner.
It's all one owner. And for the foreseeable future, it's going to be that way. So at this point, there's no re-subdivision for future sale. That may happen in the future. These may become sold lots. But at this point, it's just a maintenance easement to get back and cut the grass in that back area.
That's my main concern. Comments and questions from the commissioners?
Do you plan to develop this yourself, or are you gonna sell these lots?
The owner, which is Ballantyne Properties, is developing it themselves.
Okay.
I'm just the agent.
So if we approve the size of these lots, you can give us assurances that you're not gonna come back and ask for a variance because the house won't fit on the size of the lot?
Oh my goodness, these lots are very generous. They're 75 feet wide, and we're not asking for any variances on the sides or the rear or front.
If any other comments or questions from the commissioners, I have letters to read and then I'll get the sign-up sheet. Valentine Place Development, Planning and Zoning Meeting on September 26, 2023. Issues that should be addressed for this development. How many exceptions are requested in this application? Each unit is 3. Kaylin, who's this submitted by? Do you know who this is submitted by? Would you rather come? Okay, would you rather come speak? Okay, well, good. How many exceptions are requested in this application? Each unit is 3 bedrooms, but only 2 parking spaces for each unit. Question mark. Minimum of 24 new cars on Ballantyne. 6 new driveways on Ballantyne. Ballantyne is barely wide enough for 2 cars as it is. Appears to be a development for rental property. 14 new short-term rentals in the city. Question mark. Density of the development does not match the density of the SFR neighborhood, even though zoning allows for it. This is a leftover zoning designation from the Housing Authority development that was here. Developer's reputation as a landlord is not favorable. There will be an impact on the SFR property that adjoins it on all sides. Traffic, noise, construction, protected magnolias and majestic oaks are not depicted on the plan. Drainage is not depicted on the plan. Property naturally drains to St. Charles. Homeowners on St. Charles already have issues on the back of their properties. Are the driveways wide enough for emergency vehicles and fire trucks? What about garbage pickup? Density will be similar to Cary Court or new development on Seminary Drive in an SFR neighborhood. What are the developer's plans for the excess land located on the south side of current development? More rentals, question mark. So I guess this was a general compilation of everybody's comments from last meeting, all the neighbors. Okay, sorry, I was confused about that. Let's go through our list and let some audience members speak, and then Ms. Anderson can answer some questions. The first one is Penny Kelly, 321 Valentine Street.
Yes, hello. I live directly across the street from this property, and I have since the very early 90s. I know what it's like to live across the street from overdeveloped, mismanaged, low-income housing. It is a nightmare. And the only thing, sooner or later, somebody's going to develop this property. They say that they have listened to our concerns. I keep telling everybody, Ballantyne should not have an entrance to any development on this property. It should go in on Central. And I am strictly against this new plat that they went from 11 duplexes, which was too many, to 14 on the new one. And it is going to be a nightmare for all of us. The road will be torn up from building trucks, and the traffic will be horrible. And this city council won't sit forever. There'll be changes, but that property will still be across the street for many years to come. And as it is proposed, it is not going to work. The man that is developing it has a terrible reputation. You can go online and look at it. He's being sued and got all kinds of complaints. And I know when the public housing was there, I went to the police chief before I bought my property and asked, was there any problem with crime, anything like that in the neighborhood? They assured me no, there wasn't. That was not true. It was drugs and noise and Never once in 15 years before Katrina did anyone from public housing come and regulate what was going on there. It was just a nightmare. And I just fear that's what it's gonna be again. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Penny. Ms. Anita Warner?
Anita Warner on behalf of the Live Oak Registry. First of all, according to the plat, they've got some trees shown on here. The only one that seems to be the live oak is the one in the back, and I'm not even sure if these are there. There's a lot of water oaks and scrub things along the road, but maybe they're gonna plant trees. We are in the middle of Bay St. Louis 2045, which is a comprehensive review and plan for zoning for the next 20 years. So why are we talking about letting somebody come in here and do a massive development? That's my first question. We haven't even finished the 2045 review. Between 2010 and 2020, this city grew by 200 people. We went from 9,200 to 9,400. In that same time period, we built 2,000 houses in this city. As of this past spring, when we started with BSL 2045, there were 472 active VRBO listings. And now Ms. Anderson says that these lots are not for sale. This development is apparently going to be rental. And as Ms. Kelly said, the person who owns it, Mr. Zhang, has a terrible reputation. These will most likely become more VRBOs. We do not license them. We do not make them get a permit. We don't inspect them. We don't regulate them. We don't tax them, and we don't limit them. We don't need more VRBOs. And we surely don't need 14 duplexes with 6 driveways on Valentine Street. And the other thing is, with this 15-foot easement, I mean, if they're gonna develop the property behind, which they don't tell us, and they haven't shown on their plat, which doesn't meet subdivision requirements, if they eventually want to, that's not a big enough driveway for us to have emergency vehicles. How are we gonna get the garbage trucks in? Valentine is a very narrow street down at the beach. It gets a little bit wider, but I am totally with Ms. Kelly in thinking this is too dense for a neighborhood that is nothing but single-family residential. I lived on that street before I built my house. It's a very quiet, nice little street. We do not need this much traffic and this much development. The drainage, which they do show in the back, there's a ditch, and then they want to talk about a new ditch. But that property drains down to the people who live on St. Charles, and their backyards get flooded. They're not happy about this. This is a partial plat. It's a much bigger piece of property with some absolutely majestic oak trees on there. And it also has a big, huge, I don't know what you call it, retention pond, something that's some kind of a concrete thing. I think this is too much. It's too dense. It doesn't fit the neighborhood, and we don't want it. And we particularly don't want more rentals, because then all we have is more noise, more parking, more trash. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Anita. Mr. Cliff Rabelais, 702 3rd Street.
Commissioner Cliff Rabelais, 702 3rd Street. Guys just shot down Matt Stieffel because he didn't have a complete packet. Don't have a complete packet. There's a whole lot of property here. We have no idea what they're gonna do. Just not enough information here, because if I remember correctly, if we allow these things to be re-subdivided, then is that back piece part of that, and it can never be cut again? Or since we didn't touch it, there's just too many unknowns. It is more dense than the surrounding area. We traditionally have looked at, is this consistent with the surrounding area? I think a lot of y'all have been on the commission long enough to know that there were times when variances were granted based on the area. this area is single-family residence. What's being proposed is not. Just with the amount of land there and the unknowns, I would ask that it be turned down or put on hold until a more complete plan can be presented. I agree, Miss Anita, that, you know, it's more dense than it needs to be. Quite honestly, if they put VRBOs in there and they let them get trashy, they're gonna get kicked off VRBO site and they'll be empty. Because, that's the way those work. Some of y'all are familiar with that, as you know, I own one. It takes you keep them a whole lot cleaner for what they pay, but regardless, it is inconsistent with the area, and the plan that's being presented has a lot of unknowns that we just need to put this on hold or turn it down until we have better, more complete plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Kayla Kelton, 325 Valentine Street.
Hello, everyone. My name is Kayla Kelton. I'm speaking on behalf of my grandmother again, Barbara Kelton. And I think a lot of people have questions, maybe because we are not all proficient in reading plans, but a lot of people are concerned that each of the houses put on the plan is a duplex. So I think if is it just 2 3-bedroom houses on one plot? Because I've been talking to people and we don't have clarity on how many, like, is each house 3 bedroom? Yes. Yeah, I think there's a lot of people seeing 14 houses, and they're worried that it's 14 duplexes.
Can I clarify that right now?
Yes.
Yes, let's do that, because I'm...
7 lots.
So when we came in before, we had 11 lots with 22 units. Now we have 7 lots with 14 units. Each of those units is not a duplex. Each of those units is half of a duplex. So there are 2 houses per lot. Is that clear? They are duplex units because there are 2 on the,
Well, they're by...
they
Hey,
are connected with a carport, with 2 carports.
well, they have to share a common roof line, correct? Of above 30 inches.
But let's,
That will
That-
be
that-
up to the building code department. We'll stipulate that. What we're looking at is the actual variance to allow
yeah, like.
duplexes on 75-foot lots.
There's no variance
no variance
required. This is by right. This is R2.
Yeah, this is a
Well,
site
for
plan
the,
right
it's
now.
not by administratively because it's more than 3 lots. So that is the variance being requested,
It's more than an acre.
more than an acre.
And I was saying, then I guess, not to say disregard what the houses are, but if you look at one of the flats, I think they have the 8-foot side yard setback dotted line and the 25 on the
Yeah.
front. That's probably more indicative because, as you alluded earlier, until something's physically permanent and start getting built, nobody really knows what's there, but we do know what the setbacks are.
Mm-hmm. So we're looking at duplexes being on these lots. It's not necessarily going to be exactly as drawn. It's going to have to conform to the ordinances. Not, well, it's up to the building part. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was just point of clarification for the people that are in the neighborhood and making sure that the houses are not
Yeah, I think that's a good question.
more. So that's one of my comments. But I do want to commend you guys because it looks a lot better. I was worried when I saw 14 houses. I was like, they took a suggestion and doubled it. But now, like, with clarity, I understand, and I do respect the efforts to get us closer to where the neighborhood wants to be. But I think there is still a little bit of pushback with some of the plans proposed and how other people have mentioned that it's not complete yet. So on behalf of my grandmother, she doesn't want this approved, and I am excited to see another plan because this is very promising to see something even closer to what the neighborhood wants. So thank you.
Thank you, Kayla. Mr. Michael Applebaum, 302 Valentine. Yes, sir.
Hi, Michael Applebaum, 302 Valentine. I just generally feel like this does not fit. It certainly, I've heard from you guys and the audience, it doesn't conform, obviously, to a single-family residential neighborhood. If you drive up Valentine from the beach, it's just house, 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 then you're gonna get to the end and see 14 duplexes, you know? And it just feels like it's being crammed in there. I also have reservations, I guess, about this developer who I don't think has ever been at one of these meetings. Has he, the developer? And I believe the name of the company has been changed to something more favorable than it was at the last meeting. And it wasn't Bay Waveland.
Okay, we're
last
gonna,
meeting. Anyway.
microphone issues.
Oh, sorry.
No. More
Yeah,
so
and just
speaking
in
from-
general, I just feel like it doesn't fit. And you know, we moved over here from Louisiana to have more space, less noise, less traffic, all the great stuff that Bay St. Louis offers. And we've made a beautiful home here, and I just would hate to see this development as is at the end of this street. I can't imagine just the traffic, the noise, the potential if it's you know, VRBOs or even if it, you know, whatever it's gonna be, just more rowdiness and potentially crime and everything that brings. So I'm against it as is. I would welcome, you know, if the developer wanted to build 7 houses on these lots and sell them single-family residences on these lots, I would welcome that. But as is, I think it's a horrible plan. Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Tad Black, 211 7th Street.
Thank you, Commissioners, for allowing me to speak. My name is Tad Black. I'm a former city councilman, Bay St. Louis of Ward 4. I used to represent this area. Also, as being a councilman, we adopted the first comprehensive plan. If I'm not mistaken, even though that it was the housing authority that owned it, you gotta remember that zoning didn't come to Bay St. Louis until 1964, okay? We didn't adopt a zoning map until 1974. So of course, with the housing project being there, and it was duplexes under one roof, 2 families lived in. And so I guess at the time, the people in charge at that time, of course, it was the mayor, commissioner form of government, but they decided to zone this R2 because it was multiple.
Already R2.
Right. So anyway, when we did the first comprehensive plan, if I'm not mistaken, the future land use map stated that if this ever goes away, this property should revert back to R1 because it's surrounding by R1. Even though that the lots there are old lots, they've been there for 90 years, when they were adopted to be R1, they didn't meet the requirements of the new R1. The 100-foot frontage, 12,500 square feet, right? Okay. Well, in 2008, I was appointed to do the second comprehensive plan. If I'm not mistaken, the future land use map says that this property should be zoned R1. It is surrounded by R1. Now, I'm a little confused. I got some information here from people talking, and I do realize by the 7 lots meet all the tasks it needs to meet to build 7 duplexes. But now I'm hearing 14, and are they talking about taking one 75-foot lot and building 2 houses on it?
The variance that's granted here tonight, regardless of what this plat looks like, will be for one duplex on each lot.
1 duplex on each lot, not 2 houses on each lot.
No.
There'll be 1 house with 2 families.
Well, a duplex is 2 units.
Right.
So they wrote 14 units.
What is the definition of a duplex?
I don't have the zoning book in front of me. Yeah.
I mean, in my days, a duplex is 2 families live under one roof, separated by a wall with 2 front doors and 2 back doors and 2 driveways. I mean, that's.
And I
maybe
believe
that's changed.
it reads they have to share a common roof line above 30 inches or.
Right. That's. I mean.
So
that's,
they'll have to conform
they have
with
changed.
as it's written.
Now I'm a recovering politician. Okay, I try to stay away from all this stuff. But you know, and we're talking about Airbnb, short-term rentals. Well, I've been appointed to the third comprehensive plan by the city council. And one of the problems that showed up, that 10% of our housing is short-term rentals. And the consultants say that's not a good idea, that we need to get a handle on it. We also talked about in the comprehensive plan with the advisory committee that maybe we should start licensing short-term rentals for a fee, you know? And I even brought up the concept of certain cities that have too many of things, they put a limit on it. Because sooner or later, we keep letting these short-term rentals come into our community, we're not gonna have anybody that lives here permanent. My girlfriend lives on Demolition Street, the 300 block. There's 5 short-term rentals around her. All hours of the night. I mean, they're out enjoying Bay St. Louis, right? They come in 2 o'clock in the morning, they slam the doors, got music playing, certain things go on, okay? That's just part of short-term rentals. But my point is, if the consultants say that 10% of our housing is short-term rentals, and that's not a good idea, then maybe the planning and zoning, the city council, should take a look at what are we doing to our city with short-term rentals. So, and I understand this is what this is gonna be, is short-term rentals, but my concern is, that's not true, it's not gonna be short-term rentals? It's just gonna be rental house?
That's not what, I mean, with all due respect, that's not what we're looking at here tonight, where the variances being asked for. It's for the actual subdivision because it's more than 3 parcels, 75 foot with duplexes that will be allowed by right in the zoning. So regardless of whether or not they end up renting these things or selling them as a whole, cannot speak to that, can't look at that, can't regulate that.
Understand.
Just looking at the variances that are being presented is what we have
I
are
understand.
concerned.
I mean, if
Not
they're-
that I'm not validating the things you're saying. I get it. We all live here too.
Yeah, right.
So, but just to stay on task, looking at this plat as presented.
But that doesn't mean that a year from now, if approved, that it could be short-term.
No, it doesn't mean that it can't.
That's what I'm saying.
It could be sold as a whole unit. Yeah. No,
But
it's a
they're not for
possibility.
sale, is that correct? These units won't be for sale?
I cannot regulate any of that.
No, I'm asking the
Yeah.
developer and the owner, are these gonna be for sale?
Well, she can respond at the end to everybody's comments because we're having a hard time hearing the audience when they're not in front of a microphone.
Okay, but
So
I
if
agree with
that's one of
everything
your
that was
questions.
said, that people that are opposed to it, because it's lacking information, it's lacking the site plan review the way it should be, and I think for now, this should be put on hold or voted against. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in the audience that would like to speak? Yes, sir. You can state your name and address for us. Can you say that again into the mic so Caitlin can get it?
Steve Hass, Bay St. Louis, Mississippi, 712 South Beach Boulevard, which is the corner of Ballantyne and Beach. I've lived there for 60 years. I've also spoken to the adjoining rear property owner today, which I'm not going to identify. But she said she went through the history of the public housing before that was there. And one of the things she mentioned is during the construction, the neighborhood called the city and asked them, the developer, to stop, which of the public housing, to stop tearing down the oak trees. We have probably the most significant oak tree grove on the Gulf Coast right there on Ballantyne Street. If you haven't seen it, talk to one of the people on St. Charles and they maybe let you go in their backyard and you can see it. What she said is prior to the public housing, there were even more oaks. And all those were lost forever. And I want to know 2 things. One, what's our current rule for oak trees? Is it if you remove one, you have to replace it with 2, or has that been updated?
Where's Miss Anita?
I
I
say,
bel-
no, we
I-
have a oak tree
believe-
ordinance. I'm not gonna go quote it now
Yeah.
because we won't have it in front of you, but we do have a
But is
protected
it,
tree ordinance.
is it a replacement ordinance?
Not necessarily. If you want to come look tomorrow, we have it pulled out. I actually have it all.
I'm
prepared.
just saying, is this guy able to remove all those oak trees?
I believe, is there only just one live oak on it's on the corner there? It may not even be on the property, correct? These, okay.
Did
Well,
he buy the entire
I think-
parcel owned by the public housing?
yes.
So he owns the grove of oak trees that runs behind people's houses. This property runs behind people's houses on Ballantyne and Sycamore on the plat map.
Well, I think that's one of the questions, is what's gonna happen to the parcel behind
yeah,
it.
St.
What was
Charles.
that? Yes.
Right. So he's doing piecemeal, you know, like get this and then come back later and get the more controversial thing, which is in somebody's actual backyard. I don't really like that idea, one. Two, he didn't conform with what was stated to Mr. Stieffel were the rules for the application on the tree thing. I think what's good for one is good for the other. If Mr. Stieffel needs to conform to all the rules, so does this guy. I don't see how you can approve somebody for their application until they're in conformance with the rules, meaning the tree line, all those things. And that's the bottom line. Has he conformed with the application process? Mr. Stieffel didn't, he was denied. This guy hasn't, he should be denied. That's all. And also, I would like to look into what's going on with the oak trees, what our city ordinance is. And, because in the past, when I've talked to them, it was a replacement ordinance. On Carroll Avenue, they cut down, they came in with 3 houses, they cut down some oak trees, and they replaced them with 2. So I don't know what the rule is.
I would call Mr. Burke tomorrow and confirm. We can send you
But
the
I think
ordinance.
as a city, we need to determine what's our values. Is it the trees? Is it the community feel? Is it the resident? Are we gonna respect each other's neighborhoods? Or are we just gonna let people come in and do whatever they want, even if it doesn't help the people who are already here? That's it.
Thank you. Anyone else in the audience that would like to speak for or against? I'm gonna let Ms. Anderson come up and, yes, sir, really quickly. You're gonna have to speak into the mic if you're gonna speak for me. Thank you. Is he okay?
I was told at the first meeting when we got this map and things on Valentine Place.
Could you say your name and address,
I'm
please?
sorry, Kevin Cardamone, 313 Valentine. From what I hear tonight, that these are gonna be rental, but on this paperwork, it says that the units can be sold for VHA, FHA, and USDA homes. So I don't know what's gonna happen, if they're gonna be rentals or if they're gonna be sold.
Thank you. I'm sure Ms. Anderson will
Okay.
answer some of these questions for us.
Thank you. There's some great questions, and I'll be happy to respond. First of all, I mean, none of us can see the future, but at this point in time, these will be market rate rentals, which is somewhere in the area of $2,500 to $3,500 a month. So they are not Section 8, they are not VRBO, they are good quality housing for good quality people. And I know I've rented a house before when I was young. I hope that my children do that as well. A couple other questions that came up. One is about the property behind, and I think that's really a valid question. We were advised by city staff to break this parcel into 2 different parcels, and I will tell you why. It currently lies in 2 different subdivisions. This part along Ballantyne is the Mrs. John Fayard subdivision, and that is the only part that is being presented tonight. This is the only part that the developer is moving forward with. The parcel in the back is in a different subdivision. It is a completely different little parcel and a completely different sort of thing. But I think it's important that you should know we are not making any plans to change the live oaks, to transform them, to cut them down. They are absolutely, as someone said, the most beautiful and significant stand of live oaks in the city, and they are sacred as far as I'm concerned. So there is no plan to make any impacts to those live oaks whatsoever. Another thing we should say is this is not the only parcel that's R2 on this street. R2 runs from Old Spanish Trail to Hancock Street on both sides of Ballantyne. This is not spot zoned. This has never been spot zoned. It was not spot zoned specifically for the housing authority. It is R2 all along there. And many of the lots that are existing on Ballantyne on this block, there are 19 out of the 26 lots are currently 75 feet or less. So, in terms of density, we feel like we're matching the same density, of the existing, community. I think that's all. Were there any other questions the commission would like me to address?
Any comments or questions? Just to echo what Ms. Kelton said, I do think it's moving in the right direction. For me personally, is the question mark about the easement. Worried it's not wide enough, and I want to know what lot it belongs to, and then what is happening in the back. I think that's my biggest hang up, but, otherwise.
At the moment, nothing is happening in the back.
I'm just worried about the future land,
Well,
locking this
As,
parcel
as,
in case.
as you pointed out, we
case it-
can't develop the back
Yes.
based on this 15-foot maintenance easement.
If there's no other comments or questions, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to deny?
Motion to deny by Mr. Osborne. Is there a second?
I second.
Second by Mr. Breland. That was you, huh?
Yes.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye. Nay.
Aye.
Aye.
Nay.
Nay. Nay.
So 4-3, motion passes. The application recommended for denial. Correct? Does that count correct?
What? No. No.
No, it's the other way around.
The other way around. Was a motion to deny.
Lost.
Yeah. So we'll have to entertain a motion to approve.
Yep.
Is there a motion to approve?
I'll move it.
Motion to approve by Mr. Agee. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Romano. All those in favor?
Nay.
Aye. Nay.
Nay.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
So motion passes 4-3, correct? Okay. Motion to,
Can I just make a comment?
yes.
The issue we have in the city is R2, and the way that this was presented, it's conforming. So ultimately, we need to fix the R2 issue across the city, and it's unfortunate that we haven't done that, because I'm not super comfortable with this project, but it's conforming.
I mean, ditto, it's not the lot width or the fact that it's duplexes. It's just for me, it's the unknown of the incomplete plat. But please be present at the next city council meeting Tuesday, October 3rd, 5:30 p.m.
Thank you.
I'm gonna let the room clear out before we move on to the next thing. SWK has been withdrawn.
Yeah, but what's good for one is good for all. You deny Stieffel and you approve her. That's wrong.
Well, it's popular, but I mean, we're not voting on.
Yeah, but I look at all the.
Any day I'll be happy.
I agree, but
All right, if we can clear out really quickly and move conversation outside so we can get through the rest of the agenda, please.
vacation rentals, I hate them.
You're like,
The city,
they would just.
and they're not authorized by the city code.
Well,
I'm
they're
not
going here
saying
for an air-
anything that I want to say right
There's
now.
Airbnbs. City gets no tax dollars off it. There's no revenue. That's
They
what's
can
gonna
dock
happen.
my,
Almost
they can fire
every
me, they
house,
can dock
you
my
know,
pay.
I live, you've been in my house a
I
lot.
can go with it.
Almost every house in our
All right, let's go.
that has been sold,
Next application is Mitchell.
they are being. And they're buying 5, 6, 7.
Mitchell, application for text amendment to the zoning ordinance submitted by Jan Mitchell. The applicant is asking to amend section 623 chart of uses for all zoning districts, amending the use of barber shops, beauty shops, and other personal service establishments such as manicures and pedicures to be allowed by special exception in the R3 multifamily district. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Jan Mitchell, 402 Dunbar. I've been in business in Bay St. Louis for 43 years. 35 years we're at 402 Dunbar. I left the building, the 19-year-old building, and went to Blaze Avenue, where I am now, with the intention to return back to 402 Dunbar after I did some renovations, much needed renovations, and repairs. And so I'm not asking for spot zoning. I'm asking for a special exception like I had for 35 years at 402 Dunbar. And I did some research, and 402 Dunbar, out of the 119 years, was used for commercial use for 75 years. So,
I vaguely remember, did we grant you a special exception years ago? And then, so you're saying it just lapsed because you
I
went
did
to
the
renovate
renovation.
and
But I still have my office there. We do our laundry there.
Right.
We have our storage there, our supplies.
Yeah,
'cause
no,
our-
I see
our
y'all there
spot
often. I just
At Blaze Avenue, it's very small, so we don't have room for overflow, washing things, and so we just cut hair there. So, just asking for a special exception. I mean, I can give you some personal information. I don't know if that'll help.
Ms. Mitchell, you never left. I mean, you've always maintained, you've always had an office there. You've always been there the whole time.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yeah, I think the point is we're not looking at, we're not looking at just her lot, we're looking at the entire R3. Is the question to be asked, would anybody be opposed to barber shops, beauty shops, et cetera, being in an R3 and looking at all the areas that are zoned R3? I don't think anybody would be opposed to having that kind of business, to be able to be at least granted by special exception. Or, sorry, granted by right, correct, in the R3. If there's no comments or questions, oh, yes, sir.
I'm Steve Hass, 712 South Beach. I also have a controversial VRBO at 433 Demopolis and own a corner lot. So Ms. Mitchell also lived across the street from us. She was a renter, and now she lives in Waveland. She's never occupied that property as a residence for herself. I go by there every day. What she's saying is that she has continuously operated her business, part of her business, at that location. She doesn't necessarily, and she's saying she doesn't believe, she's talked to an attorney, which she didn't mention. Maybe she didn't want to get controversial, but she's continuously operated the back end of her business there because the location that she's renting would cost too much to have the full business there. She's got a very small, Al Kingston used to be a single barber over there, and sometimes she has 3, 4 girls in there. She doesn't want to have all of her supplies over there because they disappear. When she's not around, the girls will take it, and then when she gets back, she's got a whole box of hair color that's gone and doesn't know who took it. So she has to keep a tight eye on it, be able to walk in. When she does her laundry, that's off-site because that building is very small that she's located in. So she's operated out of both those locations, but the front-facing is the other one. She'd like to combine them together. It's what she had before. But she's never abandoned the thing. She hadn't mentioned that the name of the electricity is in her hair salon, okay? So she's been operating it as a business. She doesn't occupy it as a residence. She lived right across the street from me for a while over at our neighbors as a renter, and now she's in Waveland. And if you deny her, I think it would be the opposite. You would deny everybody that has a grandfathered clause commercial use for residential. So what you would be saying to everyone who's residential and they're grandfathered in, hey, you're not guaranteed that. If we want to, we'll put you out of your thing. And then you have to go rent from one of her landlord or the other 2 people that own almost every commercial piece in Bay St. Louis. So I don't think we need to be in a situation where we're kicking people out of their commercial. Y'all deny her and she's not able to operate out of that building, then lawfully she can't go in there and do her laundry. She can't store her stuff in there. She can't operate her business. She's gonna have to find another place to operate. And everyone else who's similarly situated as her would no longer have a right to be grandfathered in, but they do have that right by law.
So
common
I'm
law.
lost. Are you for or against this application?
I am for it, and I live right up the
Okay,
street.
I thought you were, the way you started off, I was like, I thought,
But I'm
so
for.
I agree. So it would
what
be
I'm for.
advantageous, correct, to
It'd be
allow her.
advantageous for us not to have 3 landlords in town. Okay, that's one. 2, not just her.
So it wasn't
While
just
I'm
me.
up on the soapbox, we abandoned all of our residential commercial areas after
I know,
Katrina,
I know.
and we know that that harbor has drawn in 3 people that own everything. And if you're not renting from them, if you're renting from them, it's going up. And we need our commercial, this thing that we're redoing, we need a little commercial residential. And step 1, don't kick people out of what they've already been using. Step 2, we probably need to get back into, when I grew up, they had Strong Seafood, they had Ladner Seafood, they had a corner store for Monty Plumbing, they had the movie theater, they had the car shop, they had Cellier's place where you could go get the po' boys, all this stuff, little pinball machine. None of that's there. If anybody wants to do commercial outside of Maine and all that, they're out of it because we've kicked them out. We've increased the commercial potential for Bay St. Louis and shrunk the footprint. So step 1, don't kick people out of their existing. This would be the precedent where somebody that's grandfathered in could be kicked out because she's grandfathered in. She's not asking for an exception. I don't know how that came up, but she's asking to be continued, to let herself operate like she's always operated. That's all.
Can I move it?
Well, I have a Catherine maybe sign. Oh. Ditto? You want to ditto that?
Okay, you can call. Thank you.
Okay,
In the back.
oh, yes, sure.
Ed Black, again, 211 7th Street. I won't go into city council business. But anyway, Jan's a personal friend of mine, and I can verify, at one time, some of y'all probably didn't live here, and some are old enough to remember there, in the property next to Miss Mitchell's property, used to be a dentist office. Used to be my dentist, Dr. Weinberg.
Mine too.
Right? And then at one time, that the property she possessed and has now, at one time, it was a woman's, it was called, what's called a Yellow Bird? It was a woman's clothes shop, right? Didn't last long, but it was there. And yeah, and then, and Miss Mitchell bought the property, and they owned both the property and sold the old Weinberg place, right? Sold that. So it's like been a little neighborhood commercial for a long, long time. I mean, I was 7 and 8 years old going to Dr. Weinberg right next door. So, but anyway, I'm in favor of granting Miss Mitchell the grandfather clause. Thank you.
Yeah, come on.
Just to go on record, I am the neighbor, my uncle David Story is the neighbor who is directly across the street from this property. And so we're for
Who
her.
are you and where you live?
I'm sorry, my name is Catherine Aim, 448 Ullman Avenue, and I'm the affiliated with 503 Carroll Avenue, directly across the street from this property. So we're for it as neighbors.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right.
I'll entertain a motion. I don't think.
I'll move it.
I have a
Oh,
question
sorry.
first, and I don't know if I need to direct it to Jeremy or some of the council members. If we pass this and allow that to happen in the R3 zone, by special exception, will that require everybody that has a business to have to come before us with a special
No,
exception?
so for this property, in our zoning ordinance, they have the charter use. Like, in one of the charter, on the charter use, under beauty shops, barber shops, there is nothing in that allows it by right or special exception. The applicant is asking, since it was obviously, here in the
to
history,
make that legal.
obvious was, at one time, it was a beauty shop. If it was still operating as a beauty shop and the business license was continually used there as a beauty shop, Ms. Mitchell would not be up here now, right now. Obviously, somewhere along the lines, she moved her business, did not have a business license there. I don't know when that happened, but it happened at some time. So now, where this property is, if she was in the property next door to her, I would go say, instead of asking, because when she came in the office, This is the only way that Ms. Mitchell will have an opportunity of opening it again as a beauty shop, because she would have to, as of now, city council is gonna have to change the zoning if they, to allow her to now go ask for the use to have it a beauty shop just there. If she was the property right next door to it, closer to Highway 90, I would have told her, don't ask for the special exception, go and ask to actually have her property changed to C3, but everything that touches her is R3. So we can't just say, hey, this one piece of property is commercial. You know, talking about urban planning wise, like, you know, whenever the map was originally adopted, why wasn't that part, I'm sure nobody figured, but why was that not considered neighborhood commercial? I don't know. It might, urban planning wise, it makes sense that that street should probably be neighborhood commercial going up to Main Street, but, you know, that's not how things happened. So, Harold, right now, Ms. Mitchell is asking to be now allowed, if approved, to come back before y'all in the city council to say this spot is.
And I didn't understand the part that
Now-
her business lapsed, which requires her to
Now,
have
we're
to
gonna-
come back. I thought somebody was saying that she
Now, we're
was in
gonna have to
continuous
go-
operation.
Granted, I know where the building is. We're gonna have to make sure there's adequate parking. You know, if it's a gravel driveway, it's gonna be paved. There's gonna be upgrades that would have to be made, but she would now just be allowed to have to ask.
Okay.
But that also means that if it gets changed, any R3 property in the city, so somebody at Sheffield Apartments, or those are highway commercial, some of the multifamily places that are R3, they will also have the right to go ask for a beauty shop there too. If it gets approved, don't know. I'm just saying that. it gives
Future
them-
businesses, not
it'll-
existing businesses.
Or, no, if just somebody has a piece of property in R3 and wants to put a beauty shop there, they'd have the right to ask.
There's no neighbors across the street at the park.
Jeremy contends that the business has not been operating there. Ms. Mitchell has her electric in that name, and she has been running the back end of her business there. So there's a difference for the
All
record.
the mail is here with mail that goes.
Okay.
Jeremy does not recognize it because he only recognizes her commercial license where she does the cutting. He doesn't recognize that she also has to do laundry, storage, meetings. She has a lot of people that come and go out of her shop. She stores all that stuff in her shop. The business has a bigger footprint than the residential side. And she is contending that she has always been there. Well, not always, 35 years. Her residence is in Waveland, and I've witnessed her live across the street from me as a renter. So she went and rented a place instead of having that. Also, the interior of the place is commercial. Okay? It's set up to be a commercial business. It's not set up to be a residence. It has one bathroom, and she has rooms that are set up to be commercial. There was the dress shop there. This is the historic footprint that Bay St. Louis developed when we had a bridge at the foot of Ullman Avenue. Okay? All that Ullman, there was Little Ray's Restaurant, if you remember that place, started on Ullman. Went out to 90 across where Burger King is. That was the second location. All these shops that had sell pralines, they all started on Ullman because 90 wasn't here. That whole corridor was commercial. And then they had the dentist there and her there because, what? The hardware, yeah, the place. that
Okay,
Katie-
Mr. Hass, nobody's arguing that it's not a
Yeah, I know,
commercial
Katie
building. I
owns
just
the
don't.
building. But
Yeah,
she-
no, I
she's-
understand.
But
I
she's
understand.
contending that she's been there operating the back end of her business, and that's part of her hair work, okay?
Thank
That's
you.
what she's
I think we had. I agree. I don't think
Chair, may
anybody
May I
disagrees.
call the question?
Yes.
I'm calling the question. That means we have.
Yes.
Is that right?
Okay. I think we got everything, all our major things answered correct, so I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move it.
Motion by Mr. Agee. Is there a second?
I second it.
Second by Mr. Breland. All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Please be present in the next city council meeting Tuesday, October 3rd at 5:30 PM. And I missed, this is the beginning of the meeting. I'd like to entertain a motion to change the regular scheduled meeting from Tuesday, October 31st to Wednesday, November 1st at 5:30 PM due to Halloween. All
Make a
those in
motion.
favor, and you
Aye.
better be.
Aye.
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 I did.
Who seconded it?
Right here.
I did.
Mr. Osborne?
Mr. Osborne. Y'all didn't hear it?
It's so hard.
Write it down.
Yeah. Motion passes.
It's because the.
Okay, put your microphone back in. We're not done yet. Next, approve the minutes of our August 29th, 2023. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion passes. And that last agenda item is a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Hey, ooh. Motion by Mr. Ag, second
second.
by Mr. LeBlanc, because you're not fast enough. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Put that away from you.
Hey,